Hey, it's Vanessa here. Are you ready for learning all about the Lucky Girl Syndrome with Michelle Cerda? I'm going to be reading her human design chart. And we're going to be diving into so many things around prosperity, around, luck, expansion, what your soul's here to learn, all this stuff. And so let me make sure that everything's good inside the Facebook group. Okay, perfect. I see myself. All right, let's get started. I'm so excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of run you through of what we're going to be talking about today with Michelle. I'll bring Michelle on. She'll tell you a little bit about her business and we'll have some fun. You'll be able to kind of get a glimpse of like some of the components of human design and the gene keys. But let me warn you, this is like a tiny bit, okay? A tiny bit of the overall picture. Think of it like little bits, a piece of like a little bit of a picture. And then when you put it all together, it creates like a bigger picture, like little still pictures of your life. And then when you look at it, it's like the whole image of your life. And so I tell you this because you're going to get some great nuggets, but I don't want you to feel like, oh, I got it. I'm going to take this and run. There's so much more. So you might be filled and excited right now, but there's so much more to unveil for yourself. And I'm really excited to share you some ways that you can do that. All right, let's do this, my love. Okay. What can you see? Nothing. Here we go. I always have this issue with this, right? All right, so let me reshare this. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Okay. I always tried like this new thing with a new way to present this with Canva, and it never goes how I want it to go. Okay. Can we see? Can we see? Yes, there we go. Yay! I feel like I just won right now. All right, so welcome. In case we haven't officially met, which I hope that we've met. I mean, I just, I practically go live every single day, or at least once a week in this group. So in case we haven't met or you kind of like saw things, but you're actually tuning in this time, you're like, oh my gosh, what do you have to say this time, Vanessa? I'm finally going to pay attention to you. Let's talk about that. So I'm a business and money strategist. My mission is to empower women like you to be able to normalize financial freedom. And so I like to use human design as a spotlight of awareness to show you all those little nudges, all those little things that you're feeling, but you just kind of like push to the side. And so you can bring them together and be like, this makes sense now. I have so much clarity of why I feel these ways and why I think these ways and all that stuff. And then it's like, okay, now that I'm aware of these things, how do I shift them? How do I use them for my benefit? And that's when I bring in neuro-linguistic programming. It's a subconscious reprogramming mechanism that I like to use. And so there's different variations. It's about using subconscious time travel is what I call it, to reprogram some of the belief systems that you established growing up or that you inherited from generations before. And there's some nervous system regulation things that I like to do. So whenever we're feeling that anxiety, I teach my clients how to harness their power, how to get out of that maybe that spiral or that anxiety so that they can make more empowered choices. Now, again, this is how I combine the two. It's like I love the human design because it's the clarity part. It's about soul alignment, confirming your life purpose, and then you find or you solidify your business strategy. The business strategy that you're like, gosh, I'm doing all these things, but I'm finding so much resistance. Why is that? Likely because that's not your zone of genius. That is not where you should be directing your focus. And that's what I love to teach and how I bring in human design. And then like I said, I use NLP as a transformation tool to reignite your self-confidence, to shift some of that inner talk and navigate some of the blocks that we experience as entrepreneurs. Okay, so today we're going to cover Lucky Girl Syndrome, how you can activate yours. What is the Jupiter planet all about in human design? So we're going to be focused on that area of the human design chart. And then I'm going to talk about the definition or how the gene keys interprets what the Jupiter planet means for that system, and then how to apply it in your life and business, and then the first steps to uncovering your entire path. And so Michelle and I are going to be talking about her specific chart, but I'll show you where to find yours so that you can go look at the gate number, the gene key number, and you can discover what that means for you. All right, so before I bring Michelle on, what is lucky girl syndrome? So if you play around on TikTok, maybe you saw this on TikTok. It's about someone, I forget the lady's name, some girl that she came up with like this term for it. And it basically refers to the idea that if you believe you're lucky, all the good things are going to come to you. And this has been really leading a kind of like a shift of like another way of thinking about manifestation. I think that is really great. I think that's a really cool way to view these things. However, I do believe that when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to using the power of your brain to create the reality that you want, there are some other elements or some other things that need to be revealed, that you need to realize. Because like I had mentioned before, with the human design, it shines light on some of the things that you might be ignoring, you might be pushing down, or you might not even realize about you. And so while you're trying to, make this thing over here work and forcing these things, that's not how you're designed. And so how can you get into lucky girl syndrome if you're creating this resistance over here, right? And so that's when we're going to bring in the Jupiter planet to talk about how to activate your own lucky girl syndrome. All right. So, Michelle, hello. How are you today? Hey. Okay. Before we get started on reading your chart and diving into the Jupiter planet, please say hello and tell us about Spicy Mama and all about you. And Christine's
all right. Oh, hey, Christine. How are you? My name is Michelle Cerda. Probably several people in your group or watching probably know me as well. I have a small business, Spicy Mama Salsa. It is local. I don't ship yet. I know I have so many people across the states that want me to ship, even in Canada, but I'm not there yet. But future state, I'm sure we'll be there shipping all over the place. So so I have multiple flavors, and you can ask anyone who's tried it. Basically, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I do think it's the best sauce out there.
It is so good. We get so addicted to it. I need to refill my stock because, oh my gosh, my husband's like, this is so good. He's like, it makes me drink more beer too.
See how that goes hand in hand.
Yes, it is so good. Well, thank you for doing this with me. I'm so excited that you're here. I was really trying to rush through the beginning part because we have a lot to dive into. There is a lot to look at for the planet Jupiter within the human design system, as well as the gene keys. And so it's almost like a double reading that we're doing here. So I'm really excited about that. And before we dive in, tell me, what are you hoping to gain from this reading?
Well, definitely clarity, right? So I'm very interested in learning all the details of the human design. So it's really to help me make sure that I'm making the right decisions, going on the right path, and feel comfortable with when I make those choices that it really is aligned.
Yeah, great. I love that. Okay, good. Then we're going to definitely do that. We're going to shine some light on all of this. Now, let's see here. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about Jupiter. What is Jupiter essentially? Like, what are the themes of Jupiter inside human design? And it correlates to like your spirit, your spirituality, your connection to spirit, luck, joy, and expansion. And it's interesting because when you think about human design and the gene keys, if you don't know this already, first human design was created, and then Ra, the creator of human design, he literally had like this download, and people asked, was he on drugs? I don't know, but it's so confirming the things that he's been able to present to us. Like, wow, how can this be so accurate for us? He downloaded this system. He downloaded everything that has come together in your chart to define like what human design is, and then how people have their own individual types, authorities, and all the stuff when it comes to human design. Then came Richard Rudd, who studied under Ra, and he asked, can I take a component of human design and go a little bit deeper, and create this gene key system. And he did. And so there's some similarities, but with the gene keys, it expands on the definitions. And so sometimes it seems like it's going off, um, a little bit off like track, but it's not. It's so detailed that you like understand things on a different level. And so let's go to, oh, hope I didn't change my thing. Did I change this? Okay. Perfect. So let's talk about that. The conscious Jupiter, gate 56, in the human design system. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying conscious here is because we are going to be talking about both the conscious and the unconscious Jupiter within the gene key system. So I wanted to talk about it within the human design system as well. And so when you're looking at your chart, if you're new to this and you're like, what does this mean exactly? The conscious Jupiter is going to be on the right side right here. And if you pulled up your chart with mybodygraph.com, then this side is going to be black, right? You're going to see all the planets right here. And so the conscious Jupiter is this little number right here, that sign that looks like a 4, like a fancy 4. Okay. So for Michelle, it is 56.2. So what does that mean within the human design system? And so that gate at its highest expression, so meaning like if you are just feeling very in alignment, feeling really good, you're just feeling like the higher vibrations of emotion, then you're going to be more into that storytelling, and that's going to help you really get more of what you want, magnetize more of what you want, right? And what's interesting is that this is the gate of the wanderer. And so when you think about a wanderer, like back in the day, these wanderers will go from village to village, picking up stories, picking up experiences where they would tell in these other, in the villages, as they would be visitors into these villages. And so that is essentially you being able to experience life and then cultivate your own stories and teaching people lessons through the stories that you're able to experience or come up with because of the lessons that you learned in life, which creates an expansive experience. And last week when I read Christine's, she has this gate as well, but her gate is I believe it's in her conscious sun. So this is about her life purpose, her life work. Well, this is going to be in your conscious Jupiter. This is going to be about your prosperity. And I'll get to that in a little bit when it comes to the gene keys part. So allowing yourself to wonder without shame or without guilt, maybe allow your mind, your imagination to run wild and to think about different things and to experience different things, because then that's when you learn your lessons. And then also that's when you can begin to formulate stories to teach other people these lessons as well. So before I move on to the out of alignment, do you have any questions with this?
Not necessarily. I mean, I guess I kind of see this already. Obviously, I've had a lot of life lessons, but I think it's actually opening up to tell the stories of the life lessons rather than just learning them myself and keeping them to myself.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And with you having a defined throat, I mean, you have the ability to call attention to yourself. Like you speak and people will listen. And so don't be afraid to share your story. That is your power. And the fact that it's connected to your spleen too, it's like, trust your intuition when it comes to like, should I express this? Should I tell this? Should I tell this to someone? Don't be afraid to express yourself in that way. And that's interesting that you had said, like, keeping it within, is there possibly some judgment, some self-judgment, because that would be coming from the out of alignment challenges within this gate. Like, are you judging yourself? And like, what are people going to think of me if I tell them what I really feel? Or what are people going to think about me because I've experienced this? Right.
Good point.
And then when you're out of an alignment in this gate, you can feel like no one is interested. And so I think that's interesting in a way where it's like, well, then that presupposes that you need someone's validation. Have you ever felt like I need someone's validation when it comes to, my expression of myself or my expansion or, what I had to teach or guide other people?
I don't think necessarily the validation, but I could definitely see the self-judgment.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And so, what about this part about like you feel like no one is interested in you? Have you ever experienced that in your life?
Mm, I guess maybe at certain points. Probably not. I've never been really an insecure person, so I wouldn't
Hmm.
say that I've ever really felt like I needed people's validations.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe a little bit more when it comes to like work in the corporate world. I could
Uh-huh.
see maybe some of that, but not necessarily outside of that.
Yeah, and and something else about this, the way this shows up, it's like maybe you don't need the validation, but the fact that you're like you feel like no one's interested, it's almost as if like you tell yourself, I can do whatever it is I want because no one's gonna care. It's not gonna bother
Mm,
someone, right? And
yeah.
so there's just a couple of ways to look at that. And
Okay.
then excessive exaggeration can come up. And then I was thinking about like, well, excessive exaggeration, that could either be an expression, like you're excessively exaggerating something in your storytelling, or it could be the perception of it, meaning that you see someone or you hear someone saying something or doing something, and in your mind, you're exaggerating it and you're making it mean worse than it really is. Especially with the undefined head and the ajna, you can get in like stuck into the details or worried about things that don't matter, right? Or focused on things that don't matter. And so with this game, you can have a perception that someone is exaggerating something and it bothers you, or someone's acting in a way and like it bugs you, and it can lead to your not self theme of frustration.
I could see that for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's go to the next gate of 52. So this is going to be on this left side, the red side, if you're looking at it in color. So hers is 52.4, which is her unconscious Jupiter. Now, what this is saying is that, because I want you to remember when we're reading these in the human design, the Jupiter planet is about that joy. Okay, it's about the expansion, and so in luck, right, and this her spirituality or her connection to spirituality. And so when we're looking at these things, I want you to look at it in the eyes of like, what could possibly bring her away from joy, away from luck, away from her expansion, away from her spirituality, and then what can bring her towards that. And so the highest expression is what is going to bring you more towards all of those things that Jupiter means. Now, in its highest expression, Jupiter is about seeing the bigger picture and about being the bigger person or rising above things. And so sometimes you'll be able to, experience things that people, or see things that people not can't really see, and that is very likely when you have this calm and stillness. It provides you more clarity in things. So using nervous system regulation, by tapping or meditation or removing blocks subconsciously is going to help you have more of that clarity, because as a person, especially with the 56, that is like a teacher, a guide, people are going to need that. Otherwise, they're going to be kind of like what I said this morning, when people are in this pit of negativity and they're going around and around in circles, you could be the voice of reason to help them get out of that, as long as you're in your highest expression. Now, when you're out of alignment, and some of the challenges you'll face is not knowing how to relax and be still, and truly still, where you're like not thinking about your to-do list, but like honoring like that stillness and focusing on whatever it is that you wanted to meditate on. So like, if when it says stillness without focus, when we meditate, I think of it like, am I truly freeing my mind, or am I meditating and calming my mind to be able to channel an answer to something or a solution? And because you're a manifesting generator, I can see how that you might not be able to focus, or you might want to do a lot of different things at one time. And so you
That's
can't
very
decide
common
on,
for me.
yeah.
Very
So
common for
you can't
me.
decide on what to focus on. You're just like, oh, so much going on. And so that's so interesting, because not only are you a manifesting generator where you can experience that, but that's also in your gate 52. And now listen, have you ever felt like, because you can't focus, have you ever experienced that maybe it's taking you away from things that you can choose that are going to lead you to joy, to your luck, to expansion?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
you get distracted with these other things, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's taking you away. You're like saying yes to things. And as an emotional authority, you know, it it can be questionable if something's right for you, because you're going to go through waves with an emotional authority, and so you're never going to be 100% certain if something's for you. But that's why inside M school, we talked about, in manifestation school, we talked about, listening to your sacral and testing out, the or and so you can use those two together. It's like, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm checking in with my emotional authority, and I am not too high and I'm not too low. I'm feeling, somewhat in between. Okay, now because I'm in that level, let me bring in my sacral and let me test it out. Let me ask myself these questions and feel into my body, because what I want to make sure that I'm focused on are the things that are going to keep me in alignment and keep me heading towards my signature theme, and not my not self theme. So, anything you want to say about this before we move on or ask?
Well, I'm definitely what I always consider myself, I guess, as far as the relating to the seeing the big picture is, I always say I'm an outside the box thinker. And so, I see that a lot, that I can see the big picture and sometimes other people can't. And I'm like, how can you not see this? This is just, how can you not see this?
Mm-hmm.
It's so clear to me. But also too, on the not knowing how to relax, there was many, many years where I was always focused on a million things, and never took time to relax. So the last couple of years, I'd say I've been more focused on really being more calm, learning to relax, doing some more meditation type tasks to where I'm calming myself rather than just being 90 to nothing all the time.
Mm-hmm. How has that been helping you with having more satisfaction in your life?
I think the clarity is there, right? It makes it clearer to me versus just rational decisions or, quick decisions. So, having that ability to really sit down and go, okay, hold on. Is this really right or wrong? Because as you said, my emotional side can sometimes just make decisions really fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then having this undefined, your head and your ajna, you can probably feel or think things that are not necessarily your thoughts, but things that are coming from other people that might get you tripped up and get you ignoring maybe the emotion, or like ignoring what level you're at the emotion, and then ignoring the intuition that you can easily tap into with having that defined spleen here. And then of course, obviously, it's like going to kind of mute that it's like there's so much loudness coming in from other people that you
Yeah.
can't really tune into what you are hearing in your body. And so when you're making a decision, not only using these areas, your emotional and your sacral, and then, even tapping into your intuition, it's like get away from other people, get away from the quote unquote white noise
Mm.
of all the things that the distractions, so that you can get into your body.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. And I'm reading down here that unprotected energy can lead to depression. So,
Oh yeah.
um, I do feel like a lot of times my energy gets leaked in other areas. And so I'm not, um, I can see that affecting me.
Yeah. And then because you have those, the headspace is open, what can end up happening is like unprotected energy, and the flip side of like allowing things to come into your headspace, allowing people to talk you out of things,
Mm,
or to put their own thoughts, their own agenda into your mind, you thinking that it's yours. So that's something to be mindful of.
interesting. Okay.
Okay. So the next thing is, now we're going to move on to the Gene Keys version of this. When I think it's so, I just love how it all comes together, because we're going to get to distraction. Like, distraction is a reoccurring theme in your chart here. But your unconscious Jupiter. Okay. Your unconscious Jupiter, again, it's on the left side, the 4 on the red, where the red planets are here. This is pertaining to your culture sphere when it comes to your prosperity sequence or your pearl sequence within the Gene Keys system, the golden path, if you will. We're going to be diving into this in, I think, June inside Manifestation School. This is like the last of the part of the golden path that he has set up right now. He's working on another one. I don't think it's out just yet. And so with this specific sphere, the culture sphere, it's about how you can free up the flow of money and good fortune to you, which is so aligned.
Let's do it.
Yeah, with the Jupiter having that joy and that luck and all that stuff, the lucky girl syndrome, right? So how do we unblock the things that are, or actually, what is that block that's keeping us from that lucky girl syndrome? And as you can see down here, I have your shadow, which is stress. Can you see that? It looks like it's
my screen's over it, but it's okay. The pictures of us is over it, but it's okay.
Okay, so it's stress, restraint, and stillness. So stress is the shadow, restraint is the gift, and stillness is the city. And so what the culture sphere is about, I want to read something from this really quickly. So it opens or closes you to the call to calling in, and building your fractal line. Your fractal line is a group of like-minded, open-hearted companions and allies who will aid you in fulfilling your external purpose in the world. So we're not going through the whole pearl sequence in this. This is actually after you go through a pathway. This is where, like, okay, so once you've understood your vocation sphere and what is blocking you in your inner calling, and you start to work towards that, then you open up your culture sphere and you start to activate the universe to bring in these people. So bring in maybe friends, mentors, programs, people, all sorts of things in all different capacities. So it's not just people, but actually like the process and systems that are going to support you to fulfill you, to help you fulfill your external purpose, to expand you. Okay. And so let me go back to reading this right here. So the shadow of the gene key of your culture describes a force that directly blocks your prosperity from flowing into your life. So that is stress for the gene key or gate 52. Now, here are some things that I highlighted that I was telling you that I wanted to talk about, but I had to go get my daughter unexpectedly, so I didn't get to type this up for you into here. But when I think about like stress, we think about, the stress and the worries of this and that, the money stress, the worries of the world, all the things that are happening in the world, right? And what he says, what Richard Rudd says about the gene keys. Let me see if I can move it over here, if that's a little bit better for you to read.
Oh yeah, that helps. I was trying to do it on my side. I'm like, how do I move our faces?
So he talks about like stress is a frequency that we allow into our DNA. And absolutely, when we start to have these repetitive like inner talk that stresses us out, it literally puts stress on our brain. And then we keep doing this cycle over and over again. And then we create neural pathways of stress, of stressful thoughts, of stressful actions, of stressful beliefs, right? So we embed it into our DNA. Now, he says that when we move out of the harmony of nature, that's what is like essentially us being in stress, that we're not, he relates it to the way we breathe. And he says that, as we get older, we forget to breathe, which is so true. And that creates like a sense of stress for us, right? And it takes us out of the harmony with nature. And so the moment we do this, we experience that stress. And he says in here, it's like, we are never intended to run our lives with our heads, right? It's like we're supposed to listen to our bodies, not just purely our heads. And I believe that it should be a combination of both. One shouldn't rule over the other, right? And so when we are fully in our heads and decisions about anything that we do in business, what ends up happening is that we lower our frequency. Because what happens when we overthink things? We tend to feel shame, we tend to feel guilt and fear and all those things that keep us on the lower vibration, which
Right.
I'm going to go to this really quickly because I think this is so important as we're talking about this right now. I talk about this often. It's like the way I love to use human design and the gene keys is like not only an awareness, but helping us identify some of the things that keep us in these lower, frequencies so we can get out of them. A lot of times, especially in the open centers, we experience things, we absorb things from other people that put us in this lower frequency. And so knowing this about our human design allows us to release those things so we can stop making them our own. The open or undefined centers are they're supposed to be a mirror, right? We're not supposed to be a sponge there. So when someone has that defined, we're just supposed to mirror them, back to them. So like with your open head and your ajna, when you have a person that has a defined, they're going to have like, you're a great brainstorming person to be around with them, right? So you just kind of like, they ask the question to themselves and to you, and then it's like as if you repeat it, and then they gain clarity around that, right? It's not supposed to be your question or your answer, it's theirs that you're just kind of mirroring back to them. And so you're not supposed to take that and make it mean something about you or create self-doubt or anything. That's just you being a mirror to them. So and this is really interesting what he says, and I know this is so true. It's like not only do we get stuck in these thought patterns, but we actually become addicted to stress, the hormones that are released when we're stressed, right? So, sometimes we have that adrenaline, like when we're like afraid or something, we have that adrenaline rush and we can get addicted to it. And then we can get addicted to it in a way where we're trying to find joy in that excitement to get us that adrenaline rush. And then we end up getting stressed out of like thinking, when I have more money, when I have more love, when I have more success, all these other things, I'm going to feel that excitement, which I'm going to get that adrenaline rush, and I'm going to be able to have that, but essentially it just keeps us in the loop of stress, because when we don't have that, then we get to the lower vibrations of like, oh, I feel shameful because I'm trying all these things and I don't have that. I feel guilt. I'm afraid that I might not have it. Right? Does all that make sense?
I could see that with time for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Using
Yeah.
that same example, but with time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and we always say time is money, right? Like we kind of like we trade time for money, so for sure. I mean, it's going to be whatever it is that your main desire is, like whatever you equate with like feeling fulfilled with is what's going to make you feel that more stress. Okay. Oh, I love when he says this too. He's like, when we only think with our mind, we're operating out of a mere fraction of our true potential, which is absolutely true. We're just kind of like, it's like that movie Limitless. Before he was taking those pills, he was just using a fraction of his brain. But like once he increased his awareness, like I know it was in that movie, it was about his brain. But once we increase our awareness about our entire mind, body, and soul leading us, then we can make better decisions. And when we understand how to use our authority in human design, then we can make more aligned decisions.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back to this part. Okay, so now the conscious Jupiter in the gene keys. So this is going to get beyond the black side of the planets. This is the end of the pearl sequence, and this is about true prosperity. And so for your gate 56, again, this is the wonder in human design, but for the gene keys, this is about distraction. So what's keeping you from more of that, what you want, so money, time, you love, whatever it is, you make it your own word, is distraction. It says true prosperity is found in a life lived well, a life with an open heart, always remembering the essentials, and with a higher purpose at its core. And so the pearl sequence comes after the Venus sequence in the Gene Keys Golden Path. The Venus sequence, which we're going to be learning next month in Manifestation School, is about opening up your heart. And it's not just about loving others, but about loving yourself.
Mm.
And, when we think about prosperity and abundance, sometimes people think of money, but it's so much more than that. It's like the freedom to live the life on your terms, to live life how
Right.
you want to. And so,
With all the money.
yeah, with all the time and money and whatever,
With
right?
all the time and money.
And so once you go through some of the pathways and some of the challenges, and you understand how each of the sphere works together, and you open your heart to assistance, you open your heart to allowing that fractal line of your culture sphere. So whether, again, it's the friends, it's the mentors, it's the lessons and all the things, even like maybe even family members, allowing them to support you, then that's when you can get to the next part, which is your brand essence, and then down to the pearl sequence, or the pearl sphere. I'm sorry. So you'll find when you're experiencing more enrichment, which is your gift in this gene key, you'll find that you're worrying less about money or time and enjoying more of the ebbs and flow. And then prosperity comes from detaching rather than forcing, which often comes with our money relationship. And with your sacral being connected to your I'm trying to imagine it right now, to your throat, you can find that in the past you had great success with doing to manifest what you want, right?
Yes. Yes.
But there's a fine line of forcing and just doing your part. So when you can detach from like forcing things and doing and allowing, then you open up more opportunities, more of the doors, right? And as you embody your higher purpose, money will simply show up when it is needed. Again, it's time, money, all your desires, whatever it is for you for that, but that abundance and prosperity is going to really show up more often whenever you're like living in that alignment. And so the shadow is distraction. One thing I wanted to talk about with distraction is that each gene key has a repressive and reactive nature whenever it's in the shadow. And so I wanted to talk about that really quickly and explain
Okay.
what you can experience, so that sometimes we think, like, I'm not in this shadow, but it's like, how do I, okay, so one of my gates is gate, or one of my gene keys is 24, and it's actually in my unconscious earth, so that's about grounding, right? And in the activation sequence, that is the radiance. And so, I'm sorry, that is my evolution. So what is going to help me evolve? The shadow of that gene key 24 is addiction. And when I think about addiction, I'm like, okay, that doesn't quite make sense to me. And then when I look at fine lines are annoying, letting go is hard, but the potential is amazingly awesome. Yes, fine lines are annoying. I think that's Jessica commenting. I'm sorry, I'm ignoring the comments. I see you guys. I'm sorry for ignoring the comments. I'm just so into this. But when I think about the addiction shadow, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, is this addictive to what? I mean, there's so many different types of addictions, right? And then when I look specifically into the repressive nature of that shadow, it's about substance abuse. It's about being, alcoholism. It's about being addicted to thought patterns that keep you over and over again, that keep you stuck. And then I think about the reactive. It's like the being a workaholic, right? And so the reason I'm saying that is that it's so much more detailed, and you get to like, it makes more sense, and it makes more sense in a different way. Like when you think about distraction, it's so much more than just a simple, like, you're not paying attention, or there's so many things in your awareness. And so the repressive nature for this distraction is he defines it as sullen. To be sullen means to be understimulated. It is a collapsing of our spirit into a kind of numbness. And so when you distract yourself and you feel like almost like a boredom or like a numbness, that is keeping you away from that joy or luck. You're not distracting yourself in the right way. If if not, I'm saying like you're not distracting yourself in the right way. Not saying to distract yourself is a good thing, but do you know what I mean? It's just like you're
Yeah.
distracting yourself in a way where it's just like you're numbing. Um,
Right.
let me see here. And then so many adults who had difficult childhoods also find themselves victim to these dead spaces, which become entrenched as patterns in the endocrine and nervous system. This is how the physical body over time manifests emotional patterns through its chemistry. When you really dig deep into the gene keys, he relates it all to the different parts of your DNA. He relates it to a lot of different parts of like hormones and things like that. So I'll let you dive deeper into that because I know that you have.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I have the book.
but you can come across when you're in this repressive nature and this like distraction, like you're probably distracted with your worries, right? And you can come across as like not filled with joy or maybe like a downer, right?
Mm,
And so when you feel that, and which goes back to the depression part, when you feel that, it's like checking in with yourself. It's like, okay, is this truly how I feel? Or is there something going on in my environment that's making me feel this way? Because I am not, that is not truly who I am. I'm
right.
a, I'm a happy, loving person, however you identify as. And so the reactive nature is being overstimulated. Um, it manifests as a constant need to maintain movement in all levels of one's being. So you're constantly having to do all these things. And then essentially, again, like we talked about before, you're just distracting yourself from the bigger picture of what it is that you're here to do and create
Yeah.
in this world. Which would lead you to that enrichment and eventually that intoxication of like, ooh, like intoxicated with like love. Have you ever been like laughing so much that you just feel drunk with like happiness and joy? So that's what you get to. So, what would you like to ask or say about this?
I don't think I really have any questions on this. I mean, I could definitely relate to the distractions. Coming up with things to do that are preventing me from doing what I really need to do. That's very common for me across the board in all areas of my life. So, um, yeah.
Okay, well, great. I don't have anything else for you on here as far as the slides. What I have
Okay.
next is about the emotional vibration chart. But what I want to do is like kind of like pull this all together and how you can be able to use it for your business and your life. Again, it's an awareness tool. It's being mindful of the situations, the people, the environments that distract you, that make you, pull you away from your higher vibration or your highest expression through these gates. Again, that joy that you're able to experience from the Jupiter planet. Kind of sitting with yourself and asking yourself, okay, what led me to here? And how can I remember this, or how can I journal about it so that later on I'm not experiencing the things that I don't want to experience and I'm experiencing more of what I want to experience. And, kind of checking in every so often of like in your body, it's like, okay, am I feeling more of my signature theme of satisfaction? Or is there
Right.
some kind of underlying, feelings of frustration? How am I feeling? And because you're a manifesting generator, you might experience a little bit of anger. But as women, sometimes our anger comes up with as sadness to us, and we're fooled, and we're thinking we're sad, but it's actually that we're angry. Have you ever been like, I'm so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
angry, I want to cry? You know,
Yes. Yes.
so
I do get that way when I get super angry. Yeah. I
yeah,
don't
so
get angry too often, but yeah, when I've been to that point before where I'm just so angry. Yeah. It's the cry.
yeah, I get it.
I didn't realize I'm looking at the emotional chart. I didn't actually realize that shame and guilt was at the bottom. That's pretty
Yeah,
interesting to me.
yeah. I mean, when you think about it, I'm gonna move over here. Oh, actually, sorry. When you think about it, it's just like when you think about feeling shame, you don't feel good about yourself, right? It's like, oh, I feel bad. I feel like I'm a bad person. I feel like I did wrong. And then you're just looking at all the ways to punish yourself. And that goes back to that self-judgment. And what
Yep.
I thought was pretty interesting is that this desire right here, it's, lower than anger. And so to me, I'm like, okay, when I think about desire, it's like wanting something. What does that presuppose? That you don't have that, right? Um, you,
Yeah,
I
that's
would Google
interesting
this chart,
too.
right? I would Google just this chart and then look at it and study it, and then think about certain situations again, like what I had said before about like checking in, like how did I get here, and then ask yourself, what am I feeling right here, and what do I want to feel instead, and then what do I need to believe in order for me to feel those things and for me to think those things and for me to take action based off of those new beliefs. And then I want to come back over
Interesting.
here. Go ahead.
No, I just said interesting. Yeah.
I wanted to come back over. Oh, that is okay. The yellow part tricked me for a while because it looks white. Um, I want you to also think about this, like when you're, I don't know if you've been able to pull the chart of the people that are most around you,
Hmm.
but we talked about some of the ways having the undefined centers can affect you. I want you to think about the ways that having these defined centers can affect other people that might have them open. That later on could come back to you where you don't feel like you don't like them. You don't like the way it feels when that energy comes back to you. Okay. Inside
Okay.
manifestation school, inside the Facebook group, um, maybe go back and because we know how we did the tour of the centers, go back
Right.
and look at some of the undefined centers of what their not self-themed experiences and says, so that you can be aware of like, ooh, then maybe this is how I'm affecting this person when I'm around them, if this is how they're expressing themselves and they have this undefined. And
Okay.
so that is going to help you get more joy because you're not feeling that shame or that guilt of, saying, telling yourself, I caused this, or this person is this because of me, or whatever. You take yourself away and you're like, that's just how they perceive my energy and it has nothing to do with me. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I did it for my husband and all my kids. So I have all their charts.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, we can bring them to a Q&A. We can look at them. That's what eventually I want to be able to do is like once you guys understand your chart inside manifestation school, that we come in and we, look at other people's charts as well.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yep. So, all right.
This
Well,
was
that's
really fun.
good. I'm glad. And tell me really quickly before we sign off, like I want to ask you like how are things unraveling for you as you learn these different things in manifestation school? Are you getting aha moments, or how's that all that for you?
Yeah. Actually, a lot of it is panning out for me to really understand me. Right. Because I
Mhm.
think that, especially I think as a mom, as a wife, you kind of lose who you really are. So it kind of helps you bring back down to, okay, who am I really? And then realize it and then, come back to yourself really.
Mm,
That's what I've seen a lot of the aha moments for me.
well, good. I'm glad. I'm so happy. Well, thank you for doing this with me. And
Yeah,
if
this was
you
fun. Thank you.
For sure. And if you guys that are tuning in, if you want to see like how do I get started with my human design, I know a little bit, starting to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. What I would start with is taking my quiz, What's Your Manifestation Code? It's based off of your human design, but more importantly, it talks about the centers and how the centers show up for you, whether they're defined or undefined, and what you can experience when you're in your not self theme. A lot of times people talk about the type, the authority, the strategy in human design without really talking about how the centers work together and how they support the authority. They support your authority in making decisions. They support your strategy on, responding or waiting for an invitation, all that great stuff. So you can go check that out at vanessaandmiller.com/business quiz. And I will see you guys inside the group. Bye bye.
Thank you.